I want to read you a few passages of Scripture and then key in on a theme and believe that the same Jesus who took 5 loaves and 2 fish and was able to feed a multitude with it will take one word and so break it down and apply it that if you don't get hands laid on you through this weekend with a personal prophetic word, you'll walk away knowing God spoke directly to where you are and gave you something to war with. In Psalm 105, verses 16 through 19, the psalmist wants us to have a one-dimensional view of who's in charge. And he records these words. And he called for a famine upon the land. He broke the whole staff of bread. He sent a man before them, Joseph, who was sold as a slave. They afflicted his feet with fetters. He himself was laid in irons until the time that his word came to pass. The word of the Lord tested him. Now, one of the Hebrew nuances of that word tested is literally the word tormented. Be aware of that. I also want to read you 2 other verses. Genesis 41, verse 14. Then Pharaoh sent and called for Joseph, and they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon. And when he had shaved himself and changed his clothes, he came to Pharaoh. And finally, in Job 14, verse 14, if a man dies, will he live again? All the days of my struggle, I will wait until my change comes. And we will trust Father to add his blessing to the public reading of his word. I want to hang what I'm about to say on this phrase. Hold on. My change is coming. My dream is on time. I want you to say it. Say, hold on. My change is coming. My dream is on time. Hold on. My change is coming. My dream is on time. One more time. Hold on. My change is coming. My dream is on time. Give God a shout. The psalmist has a rather one-dimensional interpretation of everything that happens to Joseph. The psalmist basically says that God called for a famine in the land, and God cut off the staff of bread, and God sent a man ahead of his family, and he was sold as a slave. Now, God didn't tell that part to Joseph. Years ago, I used to travel with a number of prophets in something that the latter rain and restoration circles called presbytery. And presbytery is where 3 or 4 seasoned prophets are brought into a local house, and a church has been prepared with fasting and prayer for the laying on of hands, for the setting in of different gifts and ministries in the house. And I've sat and prophesied with some of the greatest men and women of God for the past 3 generations. It's been a privilege for me from the time I was very young to be with some of the greatest prophetic voices from 1948 on. And however, I can tell you that when you've been prophesying for 3 hours, there does come a point you kind of get burned out. even the seasoned prophets. And when you get burned out, you discover that there's a generic prophecy that's a very present help in the midst of trouble. And when you've yayed and God won't say a thing, this one fits. And it goes like this: yay. Now you got to always say yay if God's talking. You always start with yay. It sounds, yay, thus saith the Lord. I'm about to close one door and open another door and pour out a blessing there's not room enough to contain. Have you ever heard that prophecy? Okay. What they don't tell you is that between the closed door and the open door, there's a hallway. And it's long and dark. And in the hallway, you change the lyrics to some of your favorite hymns. So you start singing, "It is hell with my soul." I told you I'm from New York. Now, I know none of you have ever told God you were really ticked off or really upset. But in between a former somewhere and a not yet manifest new somewhere, you are in a place called nowhere. And the nowhere zone is like limbo. Because what God does when he closes the door to a former chapter in your life and it slams on your blessed assurance, your first temptation, and he knows it, is to reach back and grab the doorknob and go back where you just came from. But God already removed the doorknob from this side of the door. So you can't go back. And you say things like, "I didn't sign up for this. I didn't see this coming. I didn't read the fine print." And whatever was working before the door closed on where you were isn't working anymore.